My name is Oliver Thornton, and I'm one of the directors of the Northwest Company. On the 25th of March, 1813, a ship of the Royal Navy, the HMS Phoebe, will depart you. On my way to the port of Portsmouth, and saying goodbye to my companion, I passed the old South Sea Castle, an artillery port originally constructed by Henry VIII on Portsea Island, Hampshire, and built to protect against invasion from France and the Holy Roman Empire. From his height I can observe the sea, crowned by colorful sunrise. The object of the voyage is to pursue and capture the USS Essex frigate and stop his campaign that was threatened to annihilate the lucrative British whaling trade in the South Pacific. My mission on this trip is to take note of all the events that may occur. Docked at the port dock, the ship remains while it's being supplied with several months of provision and water. I can't help but be amazed looking at the ship assigned for this mission, the frigate HMS Phoebe, the 36-gun 18-pounder fifth rate. In the system of 6 rating of the Royal Navy, fifth rate is the second smallest class of warships, based in size and firepower. With many honors awards, has a large career of many forts in the Revolution War and the Napoleonic Wars. While the fog appears, our journey begins with many questions in our mind. Soon after we lost sight of old England's shores, we encountered a strong gale from the northeast that lasted all day long. Our orders were secret, not knowing our next destinations. We just were aware of the general object of the expedition. A few days after our departure, the ship got out of the channel, but a light breeze made us move slowly but secure, which gave me time and peace of mind to study our possible routes and speculate about our new destinations.
Admiral Sir James Hillier, born in Portsea, Portsmouth. A British Royal Navy officer, he was present at the invasion of illegal France in 1810. He was heavily engaged at the Battle of Tamatave in 1811, and best known for his service in the frigate HMS Phoebe during the Napoleonic Wars.
After 2 days of sailing, our first orders were now opened, by which we were directed to steer for the island of Tenerife, to refill our water, and from thence to proceed to Rio de Janeiro, where we should open our final orders. A strong gale boost our ship south, making us move forward quickly. On the first days of April, we made Tenerife. At a distance, we could spot the ruggedness of this island, whose high mountains are perpetually covered with clouds. The abruptness and wild irregularity of the coast shows evident marks of having been of volcanic production. We anchored in Santa Cruz Bay, a small and insecure harbour about a quarter of a mile from the shore. After a very pleasant stay in the small town situated at the head of the bay, we departed, which was on the evening of the 15th, continuing our course southward. Our journey then took us close to the small island of Presa, and the Greek island of Lemnos, located at the eastern Mediterranean. The 15th of May, we crossed the equator line, which is known for the line cross ceremony that commemorates a ship first crossing of the equator. After enduring a tedious passage of 11 weeks, the bold and mountainous land of Rio de Janeiro was in sight. On the 11th, we anchored in Rio de Janeiro, where we stayed till the 19th of July. Here Captain Hillier opened the final orders. We were now able to discover our next destination. We proceed our voyage, having been ordered to keep south around Cape Horn. Soon the fine breeze from the northeast came round to the westward, and increasing to a hard gale obliged us to lower sail. Here the weather became extremely cold, turning by far the coldest day we had. On deck was as low as 16 degrees. Cape Horn was all that we had here of, with its violent storms and dreadful gales. The current, directed against the wind, formed large waves. Leaving behind the stormy Cape Horn area, a rough but favouring gale at length sprung up, and from this time we had moderate winds. On the 25th of August we sighted the island of Diego Ramirez, a group of isolated and rugged islands, with steep cliffs which are on the prevailing rough sea. As we could notice at our nearest approach, they showed only sparse vegetation. Accordingly, on the 10th of September, and checking the nautical chart, which I constantly check to verify our course, we were at length in the Pacific Ocean. Captain Hillier, on the upper deck, confirmed my appreciations. We were approaching the craggy and irregular island of Juan Fernandez. We would anchor for a few days to supply water and other necessities. As we approached, we can see at the far volcanic peaks rising from the submarine ridge. We directed our course to Cumberland Bay, which is the only far anchorage. Here is where Alexander Selkirk, a Scottish seaman, was put ashore and remained alone for 5 years. His adventures are commonly believed to have inspired Daniel Defoe's Robinson Crusoe. On the 18th, we say goodbye to this remote place. With fine breezes from the southward and pleasant weather, we sailed an immense expanse of almost uninterrupted ocean. So was peaceful nights, peace that made me forget at times the nature of our voyage. After 10 days with westerly winds prevalent on this part of the coast, we approached the north coast of Peru. Here we had news from a Spanish brig which informed us that the Essex had been seen around Ecuador. At this point our voyage turned into a coming and going. On the 23rd we arrived to Galapagos. But about this time a dispatch arrived overland, by which we were informed that the Essex had been seen off the coast near Lima, Peru. So, after a short stay, we shipped our course directly to Peruvian waters. On the 3rd of December, after passing Cape Blanco, we anchored in Callao, the port of Lima, a very secure harbour. Anchored in the surroundings, they could be seen more than 20 sail or merchant ships. The report here respecting the Essex were that she had been seen off this port about 5 months ago, but then sailed to Valparaíso. We quickly loaded ship and made sail to Valparaíso. The game of cat and mouse continued again. Finally, the 7th of February in the year of 1814, and after 10 months of pursuit at afar, close to the coast of Chile, the USS Essex was in sight. She stood out probably with an intention of trying her sailing, but soon we obliged her to run into the harbour to cut her retreat.
The Essex.
Captain David Porter, born in Boston, Massachusetts. Officer in the United States Navy in the rank of captain and the honorary title of Commodore. In the year of 1812, David Porter took his Essex into the remote Pacific to to fight a sustained war against British ships all on his own. But he was unhappy with his new command. His 32-gun Essex, in his opinion, was poorly armed and effective only at a short range. On February 1814, Porter brought his ship into the Chilean port of Valparaíso, uncertain of what sort of reception he might receive. The town of Valparaíso was built without any degree of regularity, excepting the curve of the bay. Porter was anchored, trusting in the neutrality of the Chilean government, while Hillier was trying to avoid violating this neutrality. The Essex arrived to Valparaíso on February 3rd. Captain Porter learned that the British frigate Phoebe had been on the coast looking for his ship, so he determined to await here at Valparaíso. The Phoebe was seen on the 8th of March morning, but Porter found that 2 ships were in sight instead of 1. The 18-gun warship Cherub was also there and ready for action. By that time, Porter had received the information that the frigate Tagus and 2 others were coming after him, so he determined to sail out of the harbour, trusting to the speed of the Essex to carry him clear of the superior force. Captain Hillier on the Phoebe noticed that the wind was in just the right direction to enable him to take his ship into port. Valparaíso was a neutral port, but that fact was considered unimportant. He had found his prey and had no intention to let him go. He obeyed his instructions to take as little risk as possible and held his ship beyond the range of Porter's short 32s, but closely enough to remind him that he could not escape. This cat and mouse game lasted almost 20 days, in which the Phoebe and the Essex were engaged in a boisterous display of nationalistic pride. On the night of 27/28, and with the intention of distracting Hillier to another place, Porter sent a boat out of sea, firing rockets, hoping to draw the Phoebe to that direction, clearing the way to escape. But Hillier was not fooled. On the 28th of February, Porter set sail, thinking he had a chance to sail between the harbour and the enemy and getting clear without trouble. But the Essex was disabled by a sudden squall, losing her top main mast, reducing her powers of manoeuvre, and preventing her escape to the open sea. Hillier saw the Essex main topmast fall and the mainsail flying out of control, so he moved in for the kill. Phoebe fired with both long guns and carronades on the Essex stern, while Cherub fired on Essex starboard bow. It was a 2-to-1 fight. The British were beyond the range of the Essex guns. It was a fight in which 500 men were pitted against 250, and 17 long guns between the Phoebe and the Cherub against 6 long guns of the Essex. Rarely in the history of the world has a fight been maintained against such odds as these. It was a magnificent bravery of the Yankee crew when, under the fire of the long-range British guns, fought to the last gasp. Then came an explosion below. The Essex was on fire. On the deck, many men had their clothes burning. They were ordered to jump overboard and quench the flames. Of the 250 men, only 75 remained in condition fit for fight. Porter did everything a man can do to contend successfully with the overwhelming force opposed to him. But Hillier, keeping his distance, systematically destroyed the Essex. After 2.5 hours of fight and wanting to avoid more deaths, Porter lowered his colours. Despite of this, the shelling of the Phoebe continued for 10 more minutes. Action finished, Hillier, accompanied by some of his officers aboard a boat, and they headed towards the defeated ship to take possession of his prize. On board, as he crossed the main deck, he was shocked by the terrible sight. The deck was strewn with the dead and wounded. There were piles of bodies everywhere. Hillier directed his paces to the upper deck, where Porter remained traumatized by the casualties and humiliated by defeat. But it was a fight under severe disadvantages and maintained against 2 ships, one of them highly superior to his own. Porter gave up his ship, asking for mercy for the injured and dignity for his men. Then he offered the victor his sword. Magnanimous in victory, Hillier refused the customary gesture.